Okay, so now we've got all the ribbon on to your wreath. We're going to flip it over and I'm going to show you how to kind of finish off the back side. So with these, all I do is I just kind of twist, keep twisting them, and then I'm going to roll them down. Now you can, if you've got like needle nose pliers, you can certainly use those, but you certainly can do it with your fingers. And so again, all I'm doing is just twisting and kind of tucking those ends down and under. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to get those done. Okay, so for our close to last steps, is we're going to put on the snowflakes. So there you have 5 of these snowflakes, and you'll kind of want to position them in different areas. Now, the fishing line is knotted on one side, so you want to put that side down. So there's something you want to pay attention to. And so you kind of want to just spread it out. Try and get this so that it's all in the camera. And just kind of want to get an idea of where you want to place them. You are going to try and get it down a little bit between the ribbons and stuff. And so it doesn't have to be perfect at this time. So just pick one and put it on. So it's kind of how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start here with this guy. And again, I'm going to make sure my knot's on the back side. I have 2 tails, so to speak, of the fishing line. I know it's really hard to see on the videos. And one thing is you want to make sure your ribbon in that area is kind of spread the way you want, because you might want it to kind of overlap that ribbon. And it'll be harder once you've got this tied down. So now I'm going to take my tails of my fishing line and kind of find my way to the back side of the wreath. These guys are very light, and just be aware that the fishing line does get caught around the different spokes of that snowflake. And I often lose my tails of my fishing line. All right, I think I got it. 1, nope. Here's my second. Okay, so I have them both to the back. And so I kind of want to pull it down, but I don't want to pull it too taut. So that's probably a good tension. I'm going to go ahead and transfer these to one hand and flip over my wreath. And again, I'm going to try and get it so that it's as close to the wire and not going around the least amount of mesh and ribbon, because I don't want to squish down that too far. Of course, I dropped it. So unless you're proficient at throwing square knots, you'll want to throw several different throws. And then I would even go as far as wrapping it around the wire mesh. This will just help to secure it. These are less likely to slip due to weight. Some of the signs that we put on, sometimes over time the fishing line will kind of slip just because of the weight of that sign. So I will double loop them, but these are really light. I don't think it's necessary. So, all right, I'm gonna check that, make sure, yep. And it gives you, there's still a little bit of play there, so I can move it around. The nice thing about these is that they will catch into the mesh and kind of lock in as well. So I'm going to kind of come around again, checking my placement. So yeah, I think one going here will be great. Again, I'm going to make sure my knot is to the back side of that snowflake. I'm going to grab my two ends. Separate out that ribbon there. And we'll do that again in a few minutes once we get the snowflakes on. But again, in the vicinity, I kind of want them, yeah. So again, I'm going to kind of find my way down through the mesh to the back side. And on this one as well. I'm going to try and transfer that to one hand on the back side. Now I am pulling a little bit just so I can make sure it lays where I want it to go, but I'm also going to not pull too tight for that reason. I think I need to move this guy. It's got to come a little higher through the mesh. So I want it to sit kind of between those two blues is what I'm shooting for, like that. There. Okay. So again, I'm going to start with just throwing a couple throws and tightening it down. Being careful not to over tighten because I don't want it to pull too hard to one side. Now where I am with this, I'm going to kind of loop it back behind to this base of the mesh. Base of the wreath. And go ahead and tie again. And I'm going to repeat this process for the other 3 that I have left to go. I'm going to fast forward though, so that you can do it at your own pace. And I'll come back and trim up all those at the end. Okay, so we have all of the snowflakes on, and now I'm going to go through and make sure I've got all the ribbon kind of finessed the way I want it. So what I mean by that is I'm just going to kind of pull, and it keeps getting squished, which is normal, and you'll probably do this yet again when you go to hang it up. But just kind of spreading out the ribbon, making sure, you know, it's facing forward or out the way, so the patterns are showing like you want them. And for the most part, when you do the ribbons in the crisscross pattern, it tends to stay, but sometimes they just get turned in as you're playing with the wreath. Then the next step we'll want to do is choose which direction we would like to call the top of your wreath. And so that may be, you just kind of look at it and decide which way you want to hang it. With these, there's not much difference, just other than the fact that you might want a certain pattern at the top. I think I'm going to choose up here as my top. So I'm going to turn it over, and this is when we're going to trim off the excess fishing line, and we're going to put on our hanger. You don't have to use this. I just find it does tend to keep it a little bit more stable. And I just hang mine with a 3M hook. So all I'm doing is making a loop and kind of twisting those wires. And this is when the pliers come into handy if you have them, but you certainly can bend the wire with your fingers. It's just you don't get it quite as tight, so to speak, around the wire. And so if you notice, I just kind of took one of those, went around the back side and flipped it around. And this one, I'm going to kind of do the opposite. I'm going to come around the front and pass through there. Now I am going to use my pliers just because I have them, and I do like to use them. It does save my fingers. And basically what we're really wanting to do is just get those ends so they're not poking along the surface of where you might be hanging your wreath. So if it's on a door or if it's on a wall, you don't want it to scratch the paint. There we go. There. And then I'm going to come by and I'm going to trim the excess of this. And sometimes you'll notice the mesh will shed and have a long string, and you can trim that as well. It is normal for the mesh to do that. It's just kind of the nature of its. So now I have all those off. All right, and there we go. Now you have your completed wreath. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it was easy to follow. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and I look forward to helping you make your next festive wreath. Thank you.